Hello, true believers. Time to do another Police Gone Wild video. Well, over here, we call it, or I call it Police Gone Wild, or corruption, or organized crime. Here in the Philippines, it's called Tuesday. So this showed up in my newsfeed last week on YouTube, and I wanted to make a video about it, but I have other priorities on my list. So I decided, you know what, I need to get this done before it gets away from me, too many days has passed. So I said, okay, I'll do it within the week and get this thing done. So let's go to the newsreel. And for those people who don't understand the local language, I'll translate for you. And then I'll give my commentary analysis based on my experiences here in the Philippines regarding this situation. So let's go to the newsreel.
Sinabahan ng patong-patong na kaso ang 5 pulis na sangkot umano sa pagkamatay at pagkawala ng 2 negosyante. May unang balita si...
So the police has been charged with multiple charges with regards to 2 businessmen here in the Philippines. So let's go to the reporter.
Emil Sumangil.
Emil.
Kinasuhan na ng CIDG ng carnapping, kidnapping, and homicide.
So charges were filed against the police, including carnapping, kidnapping, and homicide. So imagine that. So your car was kidnapped, you were kidnapped, and then you were murdered on top of that by the CIDG, which is the criminal criminal investigation detection group.
At kidnapping and serious illegal detention.
So serious illegal detention also. So putting somebody in prison for no reason whatsoever.
Aktibong pulis na sangkot umano sa pagkawala ng 2 negosyante nitong Disyembre. Opisyal ng
So 5 members of the police group were charged in this case, and
PG Laguna ang 2 sa mga kinasuhan, non-commissioned officers naman ang 3 iba pa.
So 2 official officers were charged here, and 3 non-commissioned officers were charged, so 5 altogether, with kidnapping, illegal detention, carnapping, and murder.
December 29, 2021 pa, nawala ang magkaibigang negosyante na sina Jaime.
So last December, this recent Christmas, so imagine what Christmas is like for them and their families. 2 businessmen went missing.
Faramil at Rodrigo Dueña, makaraang makipagkita sa isang buy and sell agent ng mga sasakyan. Natagpo ang patay si Dueña.
Their vehicle auto sellers or resellers. So they're like buyer seller agents. Like if you're selling a car, then you could use them as an agent, or they could buy it from you directly at a discount. So they're kind of negotiators or middlemen when it comes to buy and sell cars. So here's what they're saying. So they met somebody, they went into this transaction in December, and then the next day one of them was found dead.
Habang si Faramil nananatiling
and the other one, so these 2 friends, one was found dead, the other one is still missing, is the update here.
Kabilang sa mga ebidensya, mga ID at personal na gamit ng mga biktima na nakuha.
The evidence that the police or the CIDG have is personal identification of the victims here.
Nang i-raid ng PNP CIDG ang impounding area ng PNP Highway.
So the CIDG raided the impounding area where they take the vehicles. So for example, my vehicle that was taken during my arrest would be taken to an impound area like this. So they raided that, and apparently they found the vehicles that were involved, or the 2 businessmen were selling in this impound area, in this impound lot.
Control group sa Laguna noong nakaraang buwan, kasama rin sa mga kinasuhan.
So also what's included in the people getting charged are 3 civilians over here. So these are the 3 civilians. So 5 police and 3 civilians. So let's look at the other three civilians.
Tatlong sibilyan na sina William Dagutdot ang nagpakilala raw na ahente ng mga sasakyan.
So this is the person that's supposed to do the introduction or the facilitation between the police that's going to carnap, kidnap, illegal attention, and murder. So he was the one who introduced the police to the two businessmen.
Na kinatagpo ng mga biktima bago nawala. Ranilex Mendoza, tauhan din daw ng HPG.
So here's another one also who's supposed to be working for or assisting the HPG, the Highway Patrol Group. So those are the two. So one is assisting or working for the Highway Patrol Group, while the other one is the one that did the introductions. And here's the third one. The third one you're gonna like. I have my own special experience with this one.
At isang hindi pa nakikilalang babae na nakuha ng CCTV na nag-withdraw sa ATM gamit ang card ng isa sa mga biktima.
So the third one is a woman, and they said she hasn't been identified, but what she did was she used the ATM cards or the bank cards of the victims after they were found dead. So I have personal experience of this because with my own credit cards and my own ATMs and my own accounts, my own crypto accounts were emptied out. And this is the motive or the modus operandi, the MO of this organized crime, as you can see. So that's is a common practice where they'll go not only after add insult to injury. I mean, so you take the person's car like they did with me, you arrest them and then you put him in prison like me. Then you go through his credit cards and his ATMs like me, and just like me, another innocent person. So as you could see, this isolated incident that everybody keeps talking about not only happens to me, but happens to other people also. The fortunate thing is I didn't die. Did something happen worse to me than death? You could probably make that argument that going to prison is worse than dying. But at least when you're alive, you can recover. But when you're dead, it's over. Your struggle is over. And both death and alive has its pros and cons. I'd like to think I'm a person that's gonna have more pros alive than dead. But let's continue with the rest of the news feed here, the newsreel.
Nasampa na yung kaso ngayon, pwede na natin mapakita yung tatlong civilian suspect. Sana kung sino man ang nakakakilala dito.
So this is a relative, I think, or a brother of one of the victims, one of the ones that is missing or that is murdered. So he's saying that that he wants justice and get those three civilians also that were involved in the case.
Sana magbigay alam sa amin kasi
so if anybody has any additional information about this case, please let us know to help bring justice to him and his family and his brother.
Makakapagturo kung nasaan yung kapatid namin. Grabe sir.
So apparently his brother is the one still missing. So if he's still missing, what is it now? Already March. Yeah, 4 months later, the odds are they're never going to see him. But I do understand as a family member, and I have family also, that we all want closure. We don't want that kind of lingering in our minds. Even a body will give everybody closure so that way they can move on. But when they don't have closure, that's when it becomes difficult. So he just wants information to give the rest of the family closure so it's easier for them to move on. I mean, people obviously will always move on, especially with time, but it's much easier and better if there's closure, whether he's alive or dead. It's just one of those situations where it's better. You need to know.
Kasi ito sir parang organized group to Dami sa akin nag-miss.
So he's saying that's organized crime, which is obvious, especially with these many people involved and the extent of their crimes.
Na nabiktima rin sila.
So he says his final statement was that there are other people that are victimized by this kind of system, by this kind of police corrupt system, which is like me, for example. So the Regional Highway Patrol Group here is...
Makuno ng panig ang HPG Laguna. Para sa unang balik.
So they tried to get a comment from Highway Patrol Group, Police Laguna, and they declined. So here's the analysis and commentary. As usual, it's not just one police involved. It's not just two police, 5 police involved, both commissioned and non-commissioned, both officials, high-ranking and low-ranking. And as you can see, not only involves official government people, police, but also civilians also to come up together with this crime. So let's put ourselves, let's think about this, and let's talk about compassion and empathy here. Let's put ourselves, first of all, let's put ourselves in the position of the victims here and the family members. Imagine you're just providing for your family, providing business, facilitating business, getting involved in an honest living trade, buy low, sell high of commodities, of cars, and you're providing a service and providing for your family and doing good in life. Then all of a sudden, the biggest criminal organization in the Philippines, which is the police, comes along, takes that away from you, and then takes away your life also at the same time. And for what? So they could have cars also. And I remember I was watching this, the Duterte, the president, when he first started, he was addressing the police. And I should look up that video. But anyway, I'll summarize it. He was addressing the police that was charged with crimes or that have administrative issues, and he was addressing them. And he said to them, look, this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to increase your salary. I'm going to look for a budget to increase your salary. I know that you're not well paid, so I'm going to increase your pay, and I'm going to find the budget to do it. So that way you don't have to commit these crimes, so you're getting paid enough. So you don't have to do these crimes of carnapping, kidnapping, and murder or homicide. And he went on to address, and he said, if you want cars, if you want fast cars, if you want fancy cars, if you want big houses, then don't go into the police. Don't be a policeman. Go into business. Go into another field where you're gonna go into the finance industry. Go into something else. But if you're thinking that you're gonna have a nice car and a fancy house and lots of wives, as a policeman, you're not going to be, that's not the field that you're going to be into. But the problem is, he even addressed it, the biggest problem with police, there's this saying here in the Philippines, I didn't make it up, police is tulis, which means that they have several families, several wives, several children, several girlfriends, several families outside of their own original families. That what happens in that cultural situation is their expense is high, included with devices, alcohol, gambling, online sabong, even drugs. There are police that are addicted to drugs also. That's why a lot of recycling of drugs happens. And if they required mandatory testing, a lot of them, I'm sure, would test positive. But the point is, they've got all these expenses, they've got all these costs, and because of the culture, because of the police culture, because of the local culture, that they're going to have to come up with the money. They got to feed their family also, just like these businessmen. And the only way they can do it is through committing organized crime like this. So how does that involve you? How does that, if you're watching this, then you have encounters or experiences or have interest in the Philippines. And the important thing you need to keep in mind is the most dangerous people, the most dangerous organization, the most dangerous organized crime here in the Philippines is the police. It's not for you to judge one way or another, whether that's right or wrong. I've always said there is no right or wrong here in the Philippines. It's just the consequences of their actions. These people, if they were never caught, just like the people that did to me, they're still doing it to somebody else, because I haven't done anything about it yet. Okay. So the point is that this is an ongoing thing that you need to be aware of, because if you don't, then it's most likely going to happen to you. Why? Do you have money? Do you have a car? Do you have credit cards? Do you have an ATM card? Well, that's enough reason alone for them to kidnap you, to illegally detain you, and to murder you. So they can have, how else are they supposed to have money? Duterte said that that's why they go into this, because they want a car, they want money, and they can't do it. They only have enough money to support themselves and maybe their own original family, and no vices. But once you go into vices and other families or secondary families or families outside, then how are they going to provide and their police salary, even though it's increased? It's not right. It's like I said, it's not for you to judge or apply your Western standards one way or another. This is information that you should know, that you should be aware of, especially if you're coming here to the Philippines. It's becoming more and more dangerous, and you should know, just because that they're the police, they're the ones that you should be afraid of, that are going to be committing the crimes. Why? We have to put it in perspective. I know, for example, in America, you don't even have to have a job. You don't even have to have money. Hell, you don't even have to have a down payment. I bought several cars without down payments, and you can have a car there, no problem. There's so much credit flowing over there that buying a car is easy and simple and doesn't require a lot of things from a person. You just have to have a pulse, and you can get a car over there in America, for example. But here in the Philippines, it's not as easy because credit is tight. The reason why credit is tight is because nobody pays their loans. Why don't people pay their loans? Is because they don't have money and their salary is very low. People over here, and they have a lot of expenses and they have a lot of vices, and their wants come before their needs. They need to make their payments, and some other want comes in, like gambling or alcohol or even drugs. Then the needs are not a priority, like I said before. So what happens then is people have to, so in their defense, in the police's defense, how are they supposed to have a nice car? How are they supposed to have a car? And if murdering somebody or carnapping or stealing or illegal detention is what they have to do, that's something that they accept so they could have a car. Just like they have my car right now, so they have their car, so they have to do this. They have to do something illegal. They have to set me up so they can have a car. So same thing here. They have to set these people up, carnap them, kidnap them, and murder them so they can have a car. Now, for you and I, we'll probably think that how can I drive this car knowing that people died? I had to murder somebody so I can have this car. You see, the problem with that kind of thinking is that probably happened in the past. That happened yesterday or last week. It has nothing to do with today. When people live in the moment, they have no accountability. They're not thinking about how many people were murdered so I can drive this car. They were thinking, wow, I've got a car that I can drive, that I don't have to commute with the crappy commuting system over here in the Philippines. That's why the president signed the new telecommunication and mass public transportation law saying, hey, we can have foreign ownership now, because local ownership, as you could see, is not going to work, because the people who have the money, who are in charge of these type of infrastructure, like the status quo, don't want the Philippines to advance. They want to keep them in the dark ages compared to the other countries, which is I would say that's a positive thing for allowing foreign investment to improve transportation and telecommunication and infrastructure also, instead of being kept in the dark ages. But for the point that I'm making over here is that they're not thinking about the people that they died while they're driving. It doesn't, the conscience that would prevent you from doing something like that doesn't exist here in the Philippines. So that's what you need to know. That's why it's so if that's the kind of people that are the police over here that are supposed to be upholding the law, that's the kind of life that they live, and that's the culture of impunity here in the Philippines, then it's going to be just a matter of time before, because eventually they're gonna they got to keep going to sustain this lifestyle. Is they got to keep victimizing people and victimizing people, and there's nothing going to stop it, because it's, here in the Philippines it's just Tuesday. They're not going to change the status quo, and it's just a matter of time. They're going to, just like they ran out of drug dealers to shoot, they ended up shooting each other in the middle of a drug deal. So you got two different police groups involved in the same. Eventually they were going to run into each other and shoot each other over drugs and drug money. So the same thing is going to happen to you eventually. Just like if you live here long enough, or you visit here long enough times, eventually they're going to cycle their way through the people with ATM cards, and if you have a credit card or an ATM card, eventually they'll get to you. Well, what could you do to protect yourself? Well, you could put safeguards on your ATM and your credit cards, but that's not really going to help you if you're dead. Usually they'll kill you first, or put you in prison like me. They go through your credit cards and your ATMs. And for me, they didn't kill me because I was as good as dead, or they wanted to get more money out of me. And I had a small window where I used that to stay alive and survive. And here I am speaking as we speak, even though one of my 9 lives are gone because of it. I guess the reason why I was allowed to live, so I can warn other people and educate them about the culture here in the Philippines. Yes, there's a lot of wonderful things about the Philippines, and these are the reasons why. Just like the police have to do things like this that are desperate and dastardly and evil and illegal, the other side of the coin, what people are willing to do, for how far people are willing to do, and this is what the police are willing to do. What about the other people? What are they willing to do? For example, they can disregard, like the Freddie Aguilar complex, or the guy Freddie Aguilar could be 80 years old, and his wife could be a teenage child bride at 16. Even like Brain Dead would be a perfect example of that. Brain Dead's got to be 80 years old, and the one that trapped him, that shotgun marriaged him, they got to be like, there's got to be at least like a 40-50 year difference. And because of their desperation, because of their situation, they're willing to forego the big huge age difference. It's not going to fly in Western countries, obviously, because of the culture, and they don't need to. But these are the things you need to know, and this is why when people watch our videos, especially from your Western country, the dumbest thing or the stupidest thing or the most pointless thing you could do, which a lot of people do, and I don't blame you, is to apply your Western standards to a third world country like this. Anyway, that's our vlog, and to be compassionate about the people that obviously they've been victimized. I mean, I've been a victim also by the police, as you can see. So there's really not much to say over there. But I just wanted to put you in the minds of what the police have to do so they can have their wants, even though their needs are already taken care of. Anyway, that's today's vlog. So the next one probably I'll talk about when it comes to culture is probably the prison system, because that also shows like the ecosystem of what prison is like. The worst thing about prison is that it's run by criminals, by prisoners. So once you walk in through the door, they hand you over to other criminals. So imagine what that's like. Anyway, I'll go into that later in detail when I have time. But in the meantime, I wanted to inform everybody and warn everybody. Yes, the Philippines is a wonderful place, but just like the other side of the coin, it's also a dangerous and deadly place because of the police. And as you could see, they're organized, they're systemic. They'll take your car, they'll take your credit cards, and they'll go through your ATM. They'll take your ATM card, and they'll take your life. And it's called Tuesday.